Hello students, happy 4th of July. Just a couple of notes here I wanted to share with you in regards to finding sources for your literature reviews and for the other projects we'll be doing this summer. And then I will post a separate lesson and some separate video information on how to actually cite those sources in APA format. So in the lessons area of your course, you'll see that there is now in the research and documentation folder a handout called How to Conduct Scholarly Research and Document It. And in that, I've put this sort of overview, which I'm going to go over here with this video lesson as well. And I just want to touch on a few bases. And I'll be referencing as well the two handouts, the two books that I took some scans from. The Handbook of Technical Writing PDF document that you see here in the course, and the Technical Communication Strategies for Today book that you see in the course. Both of these are basically photocopy scans of just that section of the book that deal with research and documentation, and so I've provided those to you because I'm a little bit more familiar with using these materials. So I'll be referencing back and forth between these two, and again, these are all in the main folder here for the research and documentation resources on the page. And so if I go back to How to Conduct Scholarly Research and Document It, this basically provides an overview, as you can see, of where we're coming at in this course. And if we were in the classroom, we would spend a day or two talking about the basic structure of how in an academic world, beyond the internet world, where most of us tend to do an internet search, a Google search, and take the information that way, we want to think a little bit more scholarly about it in the way that we address this as college students. So the typical way that we think of the primary areas of scholarly research and work in a library is structured through books, references, and periodicals. And all I wanted to say about this was that books, you know what books are. For our literature review, for the most part, maybe books aren't going to be the most accessible sources. First of all, you have a lot of material to have to read and digest in a book. They can be a little bit more dated, but they tend to, when they're scholarly books, they'll combine a lot of information. There might be a chapter or a subset of a book that you could cite in your literature review or use for your final project, so they might be useful. Reference or ready reference. This is, as I say in my notes here, this is where the internet has kind of taken over, but it used to be you'd go into a library and you needed to find a specific data set or a specific fact, or you had a specific question. The reference librarians could show you what encyclopedias, what subject indexes, what almanacs, what special subject guides could be accessed right in that area of the library for immediate information. And you would go to those and you would look this stuff up, and it was sort of the general information, reference materials that you could sort of access fairly quickly, including databases and bibliographies that would tell you where to go find the other subset, which are periodicals. And in the academic world, the bread and butter here is journals, published, scholarly, peer-reviewed journals, professors making their living by doing research, publishing their results, having their results scrutinized by others, and back and forth. And so those are basically the areas that you want to sort of think about as still the touchstones of academic research. And in this reference list, I also point out that in a library, you have librarians, and you have the library itself. They can't buy everything and put it in the library, so they have to make some selections. So these lists are curated, and that's an important point. In this day and age, accessing information isn't as difficult as it used to be. That used to be the main skill. Now the main thing is how to sort through and vet all that bunch of information that you have on hand, and how to choose what is best suited for your purposes. So references librarians and reference sections can be very useful. Indeed, if you go to the research and documentation resources, you'll notice that I have a list here of the CSC Learning Commons research guides, and this is from the library page at CSC. And here, all you see, you just have the librarians have found some subsets, some areas where they are putting together various subject guides, including, for example, here's one on agriculture. And you click on this, and the librarians have done some of the work for you already. They've put together these curated guides of information, and that can help you. Book materials, web links, suggested search terms. So this is an example of how a reference librarian or a reference desk can help sort of sort through some of the material. So you have that there. In this section here of the research and documentation folder as well, you'll see that there's a direct link to the CSE Learning Commons library databases. And always in the left-hand corner of our page, you'll see that there's always a link to the library here. But this library database, this is probably where you want to do most of your work for the literature review. And as you can see, there's many specialized encyclopedias, journals, all sorts of elements that are divided by categories. Again, the reference librarians have done this for you. The one that most people wind up using primarily is EBSCO, which is a really great database. It has all these articles indexed, and you can look up a ton of different articles by doing different search terms. If you're a CSE student, you have access to this database through your tuition dollars, so you have to log in through this external proxy. That will get you into the system, and then you can start doing some search terms. So, for example, I know one of you was going to perhaps do your literature review on a question about long-term stress and its impact on the body. So you can put stress here and put body here, and let's see what happens if we do a search. And we should turn back. Okay, we got 46,000 results. So that's pretty broad sort of category. And so we want to refine that search. So what we can do is we can go here and we can narrow the time frame. So maybe we look at just articles in the last 10 years or so. We might just look at academic journals. We might just look at things that are available in full text format. Now we're starting to narrow it down a little bit. We might, let's see, so we still have the 1960s. Let's see if we can limit the date range here, 2007. See what happens if we do that. Update that. So now we're down to about 20. Still way too many journals to go through, but you can see relationship between stress and body satisfaction, association between childhood stress and body composition. So you might want to say stress and maybe narrow it down, the role of stress on college students. Let's try that. Stress, college performance. Let's try one of those. Now we're down to 68 articles. Effectiveness of guided imagery technique in reducing stress and improving academic performance among college students. Promising. Behavior and physiological correlates of stress-related examination of performance in college chemistry students. So here you see a bunch of studies that deal with the impact of stress on college students. So that's how you would come at this and find a more narrow sort of a window of sources that you might want to look at in conducting your literature review. And in doing the proper search techniques here, you can really narrow this down. This is something we tend to spend a lot of time on in class when we're in the classroom. So I hope that you'll play around with this and find ways to really sort of narrow the research and get your literature reviews in a nice, tight sort of area of inquiry. The other thing I would do is I'm pointing to some of these scanned chapters from these books that I was referencing earlier. You'll notice that the Technical Communication Strategies for Today has a long section on conducting research, and it has a sort of overview that may be helpful for those of you who have too large of a topic right now for your literature reviews. If you go through this section, it may help you narrow down your research topic. And then it shows you how to formulate a good question and hypothesis, and then how to approach this by going into the library, as we just talked about, thinking about databases, thinking about books, thinking about periodicals, and reference sections that you might be able to use, primarily looking for those scholarly articles on your subject. And you'll see that they're listing electronic sources, print sources, empirical sources. They take you through this the system of how to sort of access these with some lists of good sort of peer-reviewed journals versus magazines and newspapers, reference materials, all sort of explained a little bit more fully here in this section of the book. So that can be very useful to you. And then how do you manage and take notes and make sure that you do an adequate job of of integrating this research from outside into your own writing, which is a key element in all academic sort of work. Students struggle with this a little bit. They tend to have too much of the external sources either just cut and pasted directly into their paper or paraphrased in a way so that it gets lit up by turn it in, and it looks like you're plagiarizing. And what you want to do is you want to put this information in your own words. And so there's some tips here on how to paraphrase and summarize that material effectively. Okay? When do you need to quote? How to quote? I would really stress these sections of the book. These can be very useful to you. It is something we spend quite a bit of time on in class. Paraphrasing and summarizing and where to use one or the other. In the technical handbook, there's also a nice section that is an overview of the databases that you might wind up using and how to approach your primary research, your secondary research, using the catalogs, the different sort of databases and encyclopedias. So hopefully these two documents taken together can provide you a good overview in the research elements that you need to be aware of to really do a good job on your literature review. Finally, what I would say is that both of these documents that I provided give some information about the need for students to really be careful in how you vet and judge whether a source is accurate or reliable or not. And there are some databases, some modules that are posted in here for how to conduct scholarly research, for the CSC Learning Commons information literacy modules. And what we oftentimes do is we go through these in class. These are from an information literacy course that the library used to do a couple years ago. And as you can see, these are nice. They're downloadable documents. They have quizzes attached. You don't have to do the quizzes, obviously, but they can help walk you through this process. And you'll see that there's a lot of information on doing college-level research, advanced searching techniques, finding print and ebook resources, what plagiarism is, how to determine whether a web resource is accurate or not, these sort of things. And so I would urge you to consider going through some of those modules. This, again, is something that we tend to do in class. We don't have that access to the classroom to do it as a class this summer. So I'm pointing these materials to you and hoping that you will take advantage of them. And having looked over the forum where everybody sort of speculated and thought about the topics they might want to pursue, all I can say is use these tools, narrow down your subject. Your literature review has to be focused on some sort of question that articles are being written about, something that's focused, a general topic area. Generally, as you see, 40,000 hits in a search, that's not going to help you. You need to have a more narrowed question, something that's very interesting, something specific about the subject area that you're looking at, and what you imagine that scholars have been writing and researching and publishing about it. That will help you conduct a good literature review. I will post another video by the end of this week on how to actually cite an APA format and some additional information in the handout. So stay tuned for that.